Hello. Welcome back to the Vital Voyage Spotlight. I'm Mark Brown, and I'm here with Sarah McIntyre. In this episode, we're taking a deep dive into John Makohen's post, Build a Harm Reduction Safety Plan.
Yeah, and it's an incredibly important one.
It really is. Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because to truly grasp the gravity of this subject, we kind of have to start with a total shift in perspective.
Absolutely.
And before we even get going, I want to emphasize that you listening should absolutely head over to the website.
Yeah.
You really need to read John Makohen's full article for the highly specific details of his plan.
Yeah, the specifics are life-saving.
Exactly. And while you're there on the site, you can download the free SAM-HSA Overdose Prevention Toolkit. SAM-HSA, for those who might not know the acronym, is the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
The federal agency, right?
Right. And their toolkit is just an incredible resource.
Mm-hmm.
But today, our mission for this deep dive is to sort of decode the core mechanics of Makohen's message. Because, he is writing this from the perspective of someone who has actually survived heroin addiction and homelessness.
Which is, that's exactly what makes his approach so incredibly vital.
He's actually been there.
Right, he's been there. Usually when society talks about drug use, the focus is entirely on the end goal, just stopping the use.
Yeah, the just say no mentality.
Exactly. But Makohen highlights this devastating blind spot in that narrative. People using substances often spend an immense amount of cognitive energy planning the immediate logistics.
Like getting the money.
Getting the money, who they are going to meet, how to secure the funds, what excuse to feed their boss, how to mask the physical signs.
Yeah, the logistics of just scoring and surviving the day basically take up all the mental bandwidth.
Precisely. Meanwhile, the absolute most critical question, what actually happens if my breathing slows down, gets relegated to mere background noise.
Imagine your survival strategy for skydiving relies on packing your parachute blindfolded.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And using materials handed to you by a complete stranger who is just, guessing what those materials are.
That is exactly the reality of the street drug supply today.
Right. Harm reduction isn't about giving people permission to use drugs. It's a calculated, practical plan to make sure they survive the jump long enough to actually have choices tomorrow.
Well said.
We are ditching the tired just say no lectures today because, let's be honest, those lectures do absolutely nothing when pain, withdrawal, trauma, and survival thinking are driving the car.
No, they don't. And that is the fundamental baseline here. You matter, even on the day you use drugs.
Exactly.
But to stay alive, we really have to acknowledge that the old rules of drug use, the safety plans people relied on 10 to 20 years ago, they are utterly obsolete.
Yeah, completely gone.
Before anyone can build a modern safety plan, we have to understand the mechanisms of how the drug supply itself has fundamentally changed.
See, this is where I want to push back a little, or at least, play devil's advocate, because I think a lot of people listening might have this exact question.
Sure, let's hear it.
Isn't setting a firm personal boundary enough of a safety plan? Like someone might say, I just don't use opioids, I only use uppers.
Right.
Or I only buy from someone I trust, someone I've known for a decade. Why isn't that enough anymore?
It's a fair question, but...
Because to me, relying on a dealer's word feels like playing a game of telephone. But the stakes are literally life and death.
The game of telephone is the perfect analogy because it perfectly illustrates the breakdown of information.
Right.
The trust myth is incredibly dangerous today. The supply chain is essentially a long sequence of guesses, assumptions, and wishful thinking.
Just guessing down the line.
Exactly. The person selling the drug to the end user might genuinely believe they know what's in it, but they didn't synthesize it.
Right.
The person above them didn't synthesize it. By the time it reaches the street level, nobody actually knows. And the primary mechanism driving this chaos is fentanyl, along with its analogs.
Okay, I want to pause on that word, analogs.
Yeah.
We hear it a lot in the news, but what does that actually mean in this specific context?
So an analog is essentially a chemical cousin. Underground chemists take the base molecular structure of fentanyl and tweak it just slightly in a lab.
Why do they do that?
They do this to bypass standard drug tests or law enforcement regulations, or honestly, to make it even more potent.
Oh, wow.
So the CDC is very clear that illegally made fentanyl and these modified analogs are driving the massive rise in overdose deaths. And the terrifying part is that it's no longer confined to heroin.
Right, it's cross-contaminating everything.
Everything.
Counterfeit pills that look exactly like prescription medication.
Cocaine.
Methamphetamine.
Yep.
So a person who thinks they're only using a stimulant. Someone who has absolutely zero physical tolerance for opioids.
they can suddenly be hit with a massive, fatal dose of a fentanyl analog.
That's terrifying. You cannot judge a street drug by sight, taste, smell, or price.
You really can't.
But wait, I want to challenge the testing aspect here. What about fentanyl test strips?
Yes.
The CDC recommends them, and they are often talked about like they are a silver bullet. If I test my supply, aren't I safe?
What's fascinating here is how we have to understand the biological and chemical limitations of our tools.
Okay.
Fentanyl test strips are absolutely vital. Let me be clear about that. They can detect fentanyl in pills, powders, injectables.
But they have limits.
They are just one layer of armor, not a silver bullet. Crucially, they operate on a simple binary, yes or no.
Right, they don't tell you how strong it is.
Exactly. They do not tell you the potency. Furthermore, there's what chemists call the chocolate chip cookie effect.
The chocolate chip cookie effect, what is that?
Well, if you break a counterfeit pill in half and test one side, it might come up negative, while the lethal dose of fentanyl is clumped entirely in the other half, just like chocolate chips aren't evenly distributed in cookie dough.
Oh man, that is a terrifying visual, but it makes complete sense.
It's the reality of street-level pressing.
So the takeaway for you listening is this. Your mindset has to fundamentally shift. You have to assume the supply can and will change.
Yep.
And you have to prepare for that reality. Guessing is no longer a safety plan, which honestly seamlessly transitions into the next massive risk factor.
The body itself.
Right, because if the external supply is highly unpredictable, what happens when it collides with a highly unpredictable internal environment? The physical body.
Yes, the changing supply meets a changing body. Tolerance is a deeply misunderstood physiological concept.
How so?
People tend to think of their drug tolerance as a permanent achievement level, like a high score in a video game that gets saved to a memory card.
You unlock that level and you
Yes.
just stay there.
Exactly, but the nervous system just doesn't work that way. One of the absolute most dangerous moments for overdose risk is what harm reductionists call the break.
The break, meaning a period of time where the person is not actively using substances.
Precisely. And that break could be a stint in a detox facility, a hospital stay, time in jail, a residential treatment program.
Or honestly, literally just 3 or 4 days where someone couldn't get anything.
Right. The CDC and SAMHSA both heavily emphasize the biology here. Tolerance drops remarkably fast. Your opioid receptors begin to reset.
I like to frame it this way. Your brain remembers the high, but your body quickly forgets the armor.
That's a great way to put it.
Your body doesn't care about your extensive resume of past drug use. It doesn't care that you used a heavy amount every single day for 5 years.
Nope, not at all.
It only responds to the chemical load it can physically process today in this exact millisecond.
Exactly. So taking an old familiar dose after a break is basically flying blind. The dose you survived last month is the exact dose that can kill you today.
Which is exactly why the safety plan has to account for biology.
The practical guidance is to use significantly less than before. Start with a small test amount.
And wait.
Yes, wait a set amount of time before using more. The human respiratory system simply does not give second chances on command if you overload it based on a memory.
Right. And we also have to dive into how things pile up chemically in the body. Polysubstance use.
A huge issue.
Because realistically, it is rarely just one isolated substance being processed at a time.
It's very rarely just one, and this is where the actual mechanism of a fatal overdose really needs to be understood.
Let's break that out.
The World Health Organization and the CDC consistently warn about the compounding effects of mixing substances, specifically central nervous system depressants.
Okay, so like opioids.
Yes, opioids fundamentally slow down the brainstem's command to breathe. Alcohol impairs judgment and also suppresses breathing.
Right.
Benzodiazepines, certain anxiety medications add heavy sedation and further respiratory depression.
So they don't just add together, they multiply.
Exactly. It's a synergistic suppression. When you combine them, you are creating a massive traffic jam at the brain's respiratory command center.
And what strikes me is how innocently, or at least unintentionally, this chemical pileup happens.
It really does.
It's not always someone intentionally looking for a wild, reckless party. Often, it's just survival chemistry.
Yeah.
Think about it. Maybe you have a few drinks at the end of the day to take the edge off. Then you take a prescribed pill to calm down a panic attack.
Right.
Then you do a bag of heroin simply to avoid the severe physical agony of opioid withdrawal.
Just trying to feel normal.
Exactly. Maybe a little something to wake up, a little something to sleep. It happens incrementally.
But suddenly your body is trying to sort out this massive competing influx of depressants. and you might be too sedated or confused to even realize your own breathing is shutting down.
It's a cascade effect of central nervous system failure.
Which is why the actionable steps here are so critical. Use one substance at a time whenever possible.
And if you are mixing,
you have to intentionally use less of each. Avoid combining opioids with alcohol or benzos entirely if you can.
right.
And pay hyper-focused attention to any changes in the drug itself. How does it dissolve in water? Does the color or texture look slightly off?
Does it hit your bloodstream faster than usual?
Exactly. Any deviation deserves extreme caution.
So if we look at the board, we have a tainted, unpredictable supply chain. We have a physical tolerance that drops much faster than our memory wants to admit.
Yeah.
And we have the synergistic dangers of mixing central nervous system depressants.
It's a lot.
If all of those biological and chemical defenses fail, the immediate defense against a fatal overdose relies on one single variable.
Other people.
Yes, other people. We have to talk about breaking the isolation.
We really do. Because if the brainstem stops sending the signal to the lungs to breathe, you cannot save yourself.
You literally can't.
It is physically impossible.
But this raises a really important empathetic question. If using alone is so incredibly dangerous, if it is the #1 variable in fatal overdoses, why do people do it?
It's a tough reality.
Like, why do people lock themselves in a public bathroom stall or an abandoned alleyway if they know the risk is that high?
It comes down to the heavy psychological burden society places on addiction.
The stigma.
Exactly. People use alone because they are carrying immense crushing shame. They want privacy from societal judgment.
Yeah.
They may have lost trust in the people around them, or the people around them have lost trust in them, leading to total alienation. They are hiding.
Just hiding from the world.
When someone's entire existence is reduced to a locked door, the physical substance, and a body desperately trying not to go into withdrawal.
Isolation feels like the only safe harbor.
It does. But medically speaking, using alone removes the absolute most important factor in surviving an overdose. A person whose brain is not suppressed, who can notice that something is wrong.
Here's where it gets really interesting, especially when we talk about naloxone, the overdose reversal drug.
Yes.
Because it's not just about having it. It's about the mechanics of how it works and how you store it. Let's talk about the biology first. Naloxone isn't just a generic medicine. It's effectively a chemical battering ram, right?
That's a great way to visualize it.
Yeah.
Naloxone is an opioid antagonist. It has a higher affinity for the brain's opioid receptors than the fentanyl or heroin does.
Okay, so what does that actually mean during an overdose?
So if someone is overdosing, the naloxone rushes into the brain, literally knocks the opioids off the receptors, and takes their place.
Oh, wow. Just kicks them out.
Yes, this reverses the respiratory depression and allows the person to breathe again. But it only lasts for a limited time, which is why emergency services still need to be called.
Which brings me to Makohen's brilliantly practical advice about storing it. He had this incredibly vivid detail in his article that just stuck with me. The backpack thing. Yes. He says, do not bury your naloxone in a backpack under a pile of old receipts, fast food wrappers, dead vape pens, and some mystery phone charger from 2018.
That specificity is vital because it addresses the reality of panic.
Right.
In an emergency, adrenaline spikes and fine motor skills degrade. The timeline is unforgiving. Brain damage from lack of oxygen can begin in just a few minutes.
Minutes.
If the person who is supposed to save you is frantically dumping out a chaotic backpack looking for a nasal spray while your lips are turning blue, the safety plan has already failed.
Naloxone must be visually obvious. It must be instantly accessible.
Instantly.
And let's be explicitly clear, because sometimes this gets dragged into political culture wars. Naloxone is not a political statement.
No, it's not.
It is not an ideological prop to show you support recovery. It is a life-saving medical intervention that restores oxygen to the brain.
Yep.
Full stop.
Full stop. But again, naloxone only works if someone is conscious and present to administer it.
Right, back to isolation.
This is why the concept of a safety buddy is central to harm reduction. And the brilliance of this is that the safety buddy doesn't need to be a sponsor, a licensed therapist, or a recovery expert.
They just need to be a willing human being.
Exactly. Someone who knows where you are, knows exactly where the naloxone is sitting, and knows the timeline of when to check on you.
But I want to address the listeners who might be thinking, what if I truly have no one?
Yeah, that happens a lot.
What if the bridges are burned or the shame is just too heavy today to tell anyone what you're doing? There is a remote strategy.
A really amazing one.
And I want you listening to write these numbers down or put them in your phone right now. It's the Never Use Alone hotline.
So important.
The numbers are 800-484-3731 or 877-696-1996. You call them, and an operator will literally just stay on the line with you while you use.
They don't judge.
They don't lecture. If you stop responding to their voice, they notify emergency services with your location. It's a brilliant, judgment-free lifeline.
It's a profound structural tool against isolation. And it actually segues perfectly into looking at the broader physical environment where people are using
The actual spaces.
We need to move from the immediate crisis of a potential overdose to the long-term survival tactics of harm reduction.
Right, because the environment dictates so much of the risk. We talked about the locked bathroom or the hidden alleyway.
Yeah.
People seek out these spaces thinking they're exerting control over their environment. But as Makohen points out, a space with no phone reception, no clean supplies, no exit plan, and a heavy locked door blocking paramedics.
That isn't privacy.
No, that is just exposure disguised as control.
Exposure disguised as control is an incredibly sharp framing. But we also have to navigate the reality of housing instability.
Homelessness.
Right. For populations experiencing homelessness, people couch surfing, living in vehicles, hiding in public stairwells, demanding that they only use in a perfect, sterile, safe space, is not just unrealistic.
It's basically impossible.
It's frankly insulting. True harm reduction is grounded in immediate reality. It's about looking at your current environment, no matter how chaotic or imperfect, and asking, what is one realistic choice I can make right now that lowers my risk today?
And lowering that risk absolutely includes the physical supplies.
Yes, the gear.
Using your own new syringes, not sharing cookers, cottons, or rinse water. This is basic, vital microbiology to prevent the transmission of HIV and hepatitis C.
Crucial steps.
But simply giving someone clean syringes doesn't solve the underlying neurochemistry. If a person's brain is screaming for opioids, a clean needle is just a safer way to stay trapped in the cycle.
Right, which is where the conversation has to evolve into medication for opioid use disorder.
Yes, medications like buprenorphine or methadone.
Exactly.
Right, but I hear this stigma all the time. People look at those medications and they dismiss them. They say, isn't that just cheating? Aren't you just replacing one street drug with a clinical drug?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, that argument is not just medically illiterate, it is actively costing lives.
Wow, okay. Break that down.
We have to look at the mechanics of the brain and the hard data.
Yeah.
Let's take buprenorphine as an example. It is a partial opioid agonist.
Meaning?
This means it binds to the brain's opioid receptors, stopping the agonizing physical withdrawal and crushing cravings. But it doesn't activate the receptor fully enough to produce a dangerous high or cause respiratory depression.
Okay, that makes sense.
It acts like a key that fits perfectly into a lock, preventing other keys from getting in, but it doesn't actually turn the lock to open the door.
That is a great analogy.
It physically stabilizes the brain chemistry so the person isn't constantly oscillating between euphoria and severe withdrawal.
That lock and key analogy completely changes how you view it. It's not a replacement high, it's a neurological stabilizer.
Exactly. And the data from the National Institutes of Health backs this up dramatically.
What does the data say?
They studied adults who had already survived a non-fatal opioid overdose. For those who were subsequently given methadone, their future overdose deaths decreased by 59%.
59%.
Yes. And for those on buprenorphine, mortality decreased by 38% over the next 12 months.
That is massive.
Those aren't just dry statistics. Those represent thousands of human beings who get to stay alive, stay with their families, and rebuild their lives. Medication is recovery.
Medication is recovery. That needs to be plastered on a billboard.
Truly.
Okay, let's unpack where we are. We have all this knowledge now. We know the supply is contaminated with analogs.
Yep.
We know tolerance drops fast.
Yeah.
We know the central nervous system shuts down when mixing depressants.
Yeah.
We know isolation is deadly, and we know medication works.
We know all of it.
But all of this knowledge is totally useless if fear and panic erase it from your brain the second a crisis hits.
Which is exactly why the safety plan must be formalized. It has to be externalized. It must be written down on paper.
Yes, because panic scrambles the prefrontal cortex. It degrades your decision-making.
Oh, absolutely.
If you've ever been in a high adrenaline emergency like a car crash, you know you can easily forget even the most basic things like your own phone number.
You freeze up.
When the alarms in your nervous system start blaring, decision fatigue sets in. A written plan anchors you to reality.
The checklist is designed to reduce that cognitive load during a chaotic moment. It forces you to pre-make decisions.
Like what kind of decisions?
Like, where exactly is the naloxone kept in this room? Who is the designated safety buddy? And what is their exact phone number? What specific time will they check in?
Where is the safest available place to use today?
Right. What is the specific lower test dose you are committing to if you are coming off a break? Having these questions answered on paper means you don't have to think, you just have to look.
But there's one specific line on Makohen's safety plan checklist that hit me the hardest.
I think I know which one you mean.
It's the psychological anchor of the whole thing, the very last line you fill out. My reason to stay alive today.
It's incredibly powerful, and Makohen heavily stresses that this isn't some cheesy, toxic positivity exercise.
Not at all.
It is a highly practical psychological tether. When someone is in the dark, caught in the grip of addiction, they need something tangible to grab onto when the apathy sets in.
Right. It doesn't have to be some grand philosophical life purpose or a 5-year career plan.
No!
It could be your dog who literally needs you to feed them tonight. It could be a child.
Yeah.
It could be wanting to finish a woodworking project or a meal you're looking forward to or wanting to watch the finale of a TV show next week.
Exactly.
Or honestly, it could just be pure spite. A stubborn, angry refusal to let one awful, painful day write the final page of your story.
Whatever keeps the door open, whatever keeps oxygen flowing to the brain, that is the true essence of harm reduction.
So what does this all mean? We've covered a massive amount of ground today on this deep dive.
We really have.
The core message is that harm reduction keeps the door open for the future. We know, scientifically and sociologically, that shame has never reversed an overdose. We know that casting moral judgment from a safe distance, like sitting around a family dinner table arguing about addiction politics, does absolutely zero to lower the physical risk of fentanyl analogs on the streets.
It does nothing.
Connection, practical planning, understanding biology, and utilizing tools like naloxone are what actually work.
It's about a structural shift from punishment to preservation. It is about allowing people the grace and the medical tools to survive their most dangerous, vulnerable moments.
I want to remind everyone listening, you are not disposable on your worst day. Your life counts.
It does.
Please go to the website to read John Makohen's full bio. His journey from homelessness to advocacy is incredible. And download that free SAM-HSA overdose prevention toolkit. But before we wrap up, I know we want to leave everyone with a final thought to chew on.
Yeah, this raises an important question, something for everyone to genuinely mull over on their own.
Let's hear it.
We just discussed the biology and psychology of how using a loan hidden behind a locked door is the fastest way for a medically manageable overdose to turn into a fatal one. So we have to ask ourselves, how much does our society's intense moral judgment actually contribute to the physical danger of addiction by forcing people to hide behind those locked doors in the first place?
Wow. That really flips the script on who bears responsibility for this crisis.
It's something we all need to think about.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. Take this knowledge, write down a plan, share it with someone you care about, and maybe help save a life. We'll catch you next time.